What? Bad YouTube and Twitch. We're live streaming right now with a huge issue concerning the Megatins and all future product of Yu-Gi-Oh! That is looming over us, and it can't really be helped with the crush card times. Shortages is the word of 2021 if I were to sum it up, with everywhere having it, and card stock is no exception. So Konami is switching to a model here where things are going to be released in waves known as allocation. Usually when you hear allocation in our community, it's straight up that you're not going to see the product. Like Toon Chaos, for example, was allocated and people only got 10 cases out of their 50 case order. That allocation never comes through with those other cases. They just straight up don't see them. But here, allocation moving forward is now going to mean you are going to get one wave of 10s first on time. Then your second wave will come later. And for the EU, I'm hearing the third wave will be all the way in November. So like they're going to get some on time, they'll get some in October, then some in November. And this is a huge problem for the sponsors, shops, etc. that are ordering these mass orders for people who are used to getting things on time and first. In fact, I've heard from people over in the EU that I have a shop. And look, I have pre-orders usually out the window, and people only want the first wave. And when I've told them the first wave is completely full, this is all I'm getting. I'm getting X amount of cases versus my total order. They want no part of the second and third wave. They're going and shopping elsewhere. They're going online. This is going to hurt stores to a huge degree, and it's only going to work as a model with home run out of the park products like the Megatins. I do think all the Megatins will eventually sell, as we're so thirsty for Rise of the Duelist, Eternity Code products. Like, we have not had special editions for this. It kind of works for a product like this, but it's still super disappointing because, let's talk about the business model of stores. You buy product, you sell that product to get to the new product. Now, when it's coming in one wave, two waves, even three waves, you have so much more trouble selling that product. And what happens when it's a subpar set that barely sells on the back of one card for one deck for the most part, and the rest of it is really struggling to have any price? Imagine Lightning Overdrive under this kind of model. And it can't be helped right now, but we're gonna see this indefinitely for the foreseeable future, supposedly, and I'm really hoping it's not that way. Konami's made no statements on this. They've left it to the vendors and shops to have to tell you this, so I'm trying to use my megaphone to let you guys know, please give them an actual break. There's some really great names in the community that are going to have to deal with this. Also, singles are going to be so wonky on pre-sales because a lot of these big boys order a ton, so much so that like they allocate pre-sales to be a third. They should be covered mostly for that first wave, but that leaves them no tins to open for pre-sales. That leaves them to have to make those decisions on how do we send out product? Are we doing singles? What the heck is happening? And they're having to scramble on this initial one with the Megatins. And with that also, the singles are going to slowly increase versus this rabid demand that has been waiting for stuff like Zeus that is already confirmed in the 10s, and we're waiting on other spoilers, but people have been waiting forever for access code. So this clamor versus initial way smaller, tinier card pool is really going to affect prices and expectations versus the second and third waves. Expectations of what those card prices should and will be. Overall, it's bad for the secondary community. It's bad for the vendors who are getting choked out on having any product that's not a home run. And it's bad for the actual model of shops that want to resell product to get to the next product. This has been a thing with Pokemon now, with the huge demand for Pokemon and the inability to supply it. But coming over into Yu-Gi-Oh! And how many dang sets have failed for Yu-Gi-Oh! This year? Blazing Dumpster Fire, you know, people got out of the buying and flipping game of Sealed. Now, Blazing Dumpster Fire is an example of on the back of one card, Pot of Prosperity. Genesis Impact had two good decks inside between the Live Twins and the Drytron, and it's still on store shelves. They can't sell it because the ratios are so crap when you have 3.6 of each Ultra per case. You have 3 different Ultra Rares per box, and then you have 36 Ultras pulled per case between 10 different Ultras. You just can't actually get the value back off the singles, and so you look for the collector rare value, and it's not really there to open up on the average when you have 15 different collectors. The non-all-foil side sets are definitely going to feel a type of way if they end up getting allocated like this. So when I'm staring down this model, and I'm thinking if I were the average consumer and I got told my 5 cases of 10s are going to be the second wave, I'm missing out while seeing everybody open theirs, I'm going to be mad. And I'm going to be mad with the shop because there's not this clear communication that this is on Konami's and leaving it to the shops to have to deal with it this way. I think 1,000,000% Konami should be publicly addressing this, explaining things for the community, being able to talk it through rather than leave it on people like me and people like them to have to explain this to you that Konami is doing this at the top. And yeah, it comes down to shortage. It comes down to card stock. It comes down to something out of their control unless they do another delay and allow it to amass all at once. And I don't think that's the greatest model either after we've already pushed back the 10s 3 times. There has to be a happy balance though, like maybe delays until you can catch this up fully or whatever we're going to do. But this allocation thing is something that the community is going to get used to over time. But please be patient because I can understand as a consumer getting pushed to a second or third wave would be seething, would be, I paid for these cards and they're not in my hand, but it's not the vendor's fault. They're going to have some tough decisions to make. They're going to have to explain this to their customers, and it is not their fault. So what do you guys think of what's happening with the 10s? And by the way, they are on our doorsteps also, just so you do know this. But this is a problem the Yu-Gi-Oh community is going to have to deal with for some times. But literally people are getting their first waves in hand in the EU. Obviously, it's not their full orders. It's going to be X amount, so we should hopefully start to see spoilers for the 10s too from people who are hoping, when do we see what's in these 10s that everybody's talking about? They're literally on the doorsteps, and I'm hoping someone gets a little tipsy, gets a little jovial. Oh, let's open just a couple. We start to see some cards, but sometimes the first waves are to the biggest shops and then they go out to the other shops and then Konami knows who has them, so it's less likely early. I can't wait to see what's in the 10s. I'm really excited about them. But what I'm not excited for is how this is being handled through the community and how there's not this clear line of communication that leaves it all on the community to do it. Just a bad take with allocation. Really sucks to be a vendor at this time. Yeah, having to deal with it without it being intuitive to the community versus what usually happens. It is not something that I envy. When I actually started this channel, I wanted to open a shop and then I wanted it to kind of be free advertisement for my shop. That was my original goal, but then YouTube and Twitch became these communities that really lifted me into this other place where I was like, wow, this is way more than I thought it would ever be, having this YouTube community, Twitch community. And then I saw 7 different friends that have their shops robbed, years of their lives gone away, and this is also the kind of stuff I don't envy dealing with at all. I also hate sitting there going A, B, C, D with sorting trays, sorting stuff all day, having to do these repetitive office tasks around the game I love, when what I really loved is going out and talking to people, doing the actual trades, going out to dinners and having fun with like other duelists that are now suddenly champions. Like I was actually at the dinner of Marcus Hayden when he won his event, and he was like, well, now I'm one of the best duelists around, and then he's surrounded by like 17 other champions like Fraser Smith. He pointed to me and he's like, well, he's not a champ, and it's like, well, actually, you see, my rusty 2008 dub. But points aside and stories aside, I really don't envy the position that they've been put in. I really want to express that it's not their fault. And if you end up in wave 2 or 3, yes, that's going to suck, especially the first time that's ever going to happen to a product. And now vendors pre-sales will probably update to say wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and I can tell you what, wave 2 and 3 are going to sell out way slower, and people chomping at the bit for Burst of Destiny right now too. Burst of Destiny is probably following into this model, so imagine you pre-ordered Burst of Destiny and now you're going to be waiting. It's going to be some time for the community to react, the community to figure out how they're going to even guarantee what amounts for what pre-sales and what's going to happen with them, and it's still going to be messy because we don't know what percentage is in wave 1 when you're a vendor and you're ordering from Konami. We don't know what percentage ends up in wave 2, and if they have to go to wave 3, that's just absurd. 2 months later, I'm not liking the looks of it, but I still want my Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I still want them to be out there, and I really hope Konami cleans up this communication on some way, shape, or form. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you at least enjoy the conversation and understand what's happening, and I want you to actually think from the place where shops come from, because vendors get a really bad name in this community, from the guy that's trying to offer you 30% on your cards without any overhead, going back and getting Cheeto dust all over the controller and gaming from home. Like, I understand that. No, these are legitimate places employing people. The lone man working 19 hours a day, seeing nothing but Yu-Gi-Oh! Those kind of people are getting hard punished here, and it really does suck to see.